The Chicago Bears have just absolutely fleeced the Carolina Panthers. What's up, y'all? It's Nick here from GridironTalkZone to talk about the big trade that just went down in the NFL today. The Chicago Bears and the Carolina Panthers made a trade involving the first overall pick in the NFL draft. So the Chicago Bears had the first overall pick. They traded it to the Carolina Panthers for DJ Moore, the 9th overall pick in this year's draft, the 61st overall pick in this year's draft, and next year first round pick, that's 2024, and a 2025 second round pick. So let's break it down here. So Carolina, obviously they're moving up to the first overall pick to draft a quarterback, whether that be Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, maybe Anthony Richardson as a wild card. I don't quite know yet. But let's look at it from the Bears' perspective, since they were in the driver's seat with deciding what to do with the pick since they had the first overall pick. So this basically means that the Bears believe that Justin Fields is the future franchise quarterback. And as a Bears fan, I have still yet to watch the Bryce Young tape, the CJ Stroud tape. But I like this move, standing on just trusting Justin Fields being your franchise quarterback. He took significant strides in year two as far as just overall numbers go. Yes, you can still say there are flaws in his pocket passing game, but it is improving, and we saw strides. His accuracy is improving. He can make those wow throws. He has all the talent. He had one of the best rushing seasons of all time for a quarterback, and that was involving missing a game or a few. So I like committing to Justin Fields as your franchise quarterback because you still have, up until now, yet to get him kind of that true number one receiver. And now with DJ Moore coming in to town, you get a bona fide top 15 wide receiver, in my opinion, who, guys, from 2019 to 2021, that 3-year stretch, I believe DJ Moore was top 10 in receiving yards all of those years. And that was with playing with some of the worst quarterback play in that stretch. You're talking about guys like 2019, the end of Cam Newton in Carolina. There was Kyle Allen for a little bit, Teddy Bridgewater. You're just talking about guys who are not really your, I guess, go-to starting quarterback, Sam Darnold. So playing with bad quarterback play, DJ Moore was still able to put up good numbers. Watch his tape. He's a very good talent. So the Bears get the bona fide number one receiver for Justin Fields. You have a guy like Adam Thielen on the market who I think that the Bears should try to go sign now. We'll talk about that in a little bit because the Vikings did release Adam Thielen today, believe it or not. But I feel like with your number one in DJ Moore, you have a guy like Mooney, who in 2021, he played very well on the outside mainly, with obviously playing a little bit of slot, but he played more slot than outside this past year, 2022, and it just wasn't the best year for him. So you'd like to see him bounce back as being now your number two receiver behind DJ Moore. But I want to see Mooney play on the outside because I think with his speed, he is more of an outside receiver than a slot receiver. So you have a guy like Trace Claypool, who you traded for this past year. I think you should go get Adam Thielen as a free agent to play in the slot. So you have your slot guy, you have DJ Moore, your number one guy, and then you have another really good 3 and 4 would be Mooney and Claypool. But Adam Thielen's not on the roster right now, so we have to act like Mooney's the number 2 and Claypool's the number 3. That is still a very good 1-2-3 punch at wide receiver. It's just who's going to get some of the main slot reps, and that's probably going to be Darnell Mooney. But looking as far as just the value, I think that from the Bears' perspective, this is a very good trade because, as I said, you have Fields, your guy now at quarterback. You get a number one receiver in DJ Moore, and then you still get a ton of draft capital. 9th overall pick, you're looking at maybe taking the tackle out of Northwestern. You can get a pass rusher like Tyree Wilson if he falls to you. Some are even talking about with Jalen Carter off the field stuff coming up, he could fall to number 9 potentially. Then you get a D lineman in Jalen Carter. So There's many different options. If I'm the Bears, though, I use this 9th overall pick to address up front, either offensive line or defensive line, and you get the 61st overall pick, a second-round pick. You already have another second-round pick this year. I believe it's 53rd. And then you get a 2024 first-round pick, which, looking at the Panthers, first-year head coach, first-year quarterback next year, fairly poor receiving core, that first-round pick for next year is likely to be a top 10 pick. So the Bears are looking at potentially getting 2 top 10 picks, a number 1 receiver, 2 second-round picks for this first overall pick, and they get to commit to Justin Fields as the franchise quarterback. This is an A-plus trade. Absolutely knock it out of the ballpark for the Chicago Bears. Now let's also mention one more thing with the Bears. They have to have a big free agency. They have the most cap still in the NFL. They have some holes all over the defense, starting up front. They lost Roquan Smith at linebacker in a trade last year, so they need to address that position. There's still some young players in the secondary, but they can always they always want to add to that to improve that secondary. I say go get a veteran corner in free agency. But looking at this from the Panthers' perspective, the Panthers have really been trying to get the quarterback. They've had an up-and-coming young defense for the last few years now. That defense is only improving, so they do have a pretty solid defense. Then you look at, I think they knocked the ball out of the ballpark with this coaching hire with Frank Reich. Very good offensive coach, very good leader of men. I really like the hire of Frank Reich. But now you have to go get your quarterback. And from the Panthers' perspective, the part I don't like is that DJ Moore was traded. Because now you're looking at a receiving core consisting of Terrace Marshall Jr., Laviska Shenault, and I have to check who your other receivers are right now real quick. You have Shea Smith, Rashard Higgins, Andre Roberts, Preston Williams as your receiving core. That's like 6 deep. So that receiving core is one of the worst in all of football, if not the worst. Terrace Marshall Jr. is not a number 1 receiver, probably not even number 2, maybe a number 3. So this receiving core is desperate right now without DJ Moore. And you're putting a young quarterback, maybe a Bryce Young or a CJ Stroud or an Anthony Richardson. I don't really have a preference yet because I haven't watched the tape on those guys, but be on the lookout because I'm going to talk a lot of this draft season on this channel. So I'm going to have my quarterback rankings in the draft coming out pretty soon. But yeah, so the Panthers, they're putting a young quarterback in a situation where I do like the O-line. The O-line has some young guys, has some veterans, and it's pretty solid O-line last year. I believe they ranked around the 10th spot for pass blocking PFF grade-wise. And a guy like Ikem Ekwonu, who you drafted last year, is only improving at tackle. So I like that you have your coach, you have a pretty good defense, you have a up-and-coming solid O-line, but the receiving core from a tight end and receiver perspective has a lot to be desired. And the problem now is with trading all this draft capital is you better hit on this first overall quarterback or you're really screwed for at least the next 3 to 5 years if you don't hit on this quarterback. But if you do hit on this quarterback, you still need to get him some receiving talent. You look at now the Panthers only have, outside of the first overall pick, which will be taken or spent on a quarterback, you have the 39th pick in the second round, the 93rd pick in like the third round, the end of the third round. And then you only have 3 picks the rest of the draft, and those are in the 4th and 5th rounds. So you don't have that many draft picks. They do still have cap, but this isn't a very good free agent receiver class, but you still have to at least add a guy or 2 in free agency who can at least come in there and compete for the starting spots. So yeah, this receiving core has to improve, but if you're Carolina, you're desperate for a franchise quarterback, you have to go make this move. It just sucks that you had to give up DJ Moore, but I kind of like this trade for both sides. I think Carolina, yes, I did say they were fleeced just because they had to give up DJ Moore, but they were also in a tough situation where you have to go get yourself a franchise quarterback, and I think that they're doing that right now. The problem is they don't have receiving talent, and they don't have a ton of draft capital to go get that receiving talent, and where they do have a decent amount of cap space, the free agent market at wide receiver this year is pretty weak. But looking at the Panthers, that pick that they have, the 39th overall pick in the second round, take a receiver. I'm usually take a best player available kind of guy, but in this situation with the lack of receiving talent and you're bringing in a rookie quarterback, you have to go get a guy who you think can at least be a number 2, hopefully a number 1 wide receiver at that number 39th pick spot. Along with adding some other guys who can come compete for starting spots in free agency. But the Panthers, not much more to say on them. You just kind of really have to hit on this number 1 overall pick at quarterback. But yeah, so that's this trade. Bears get an A+ for me, easy. Panthers, I like that they're being aggressive to go get the quarterback, but you did have to give up DJ Moore, so that brings the grade down a little bit. I think it's about a B trade because you could have said, okay, the Panthers could have said to themselves, looking at number 3, the Cardinals pick at number 3, they're not taking a quarterback. The Seahawks pick at number 5, they're probably not taking a quarterback. So you could have traded up to 3 or 5 if you liked like 3 to 4 of these top quarterback prospects, and you just get the one that you can get. But with being so aggressive to give up so much capital and trade up to number 1, that shows that there's one quarterback that the Panthers really love and do not want to miss on. So, hey, if that's how they feel, then good for them to go get the quarterback. But I just don't like giving up DJ Moore. So the Panthers get a B for me on this trade. Bears get an A+ because of all the reasons I stated. You get so much in return. You get to build around Fields now, and you have so much cap, and you can really put together a team that can go contend for the next 2 to 3 years in the NFC North if you have a big free agency and you hit on your draft picks. So I like the direction the Bears are headed. I think the Panthers are headed in a pretty solid direction too, but they had to give up a lot to kind of get the quarterback that they want. So I'm also going to talk about a few other things in this video, just a few other NFL moves that happened today. Adam Thielen was released by the Minnesota Vikings. This move saved $6 million. I don't understand this move. I get Adam Thielen is 32. He's not a number 1 receiver anymore, but he is a very good number 2 slot receiver. And if you're looking at the Vikings depth chart now, yes, you have the stud Justin Jefferson at receiver, but outside Justin Jefferson, you have a pretty good player in KJ Osborne at the number 2 spot now. But that number 3 spot, you're looking at a guy like Jalen Reagor potentially being that number 3. So you lose a big piece of your receiver, just talent in Adam Thielen. And I feel like you're putting kind of too much on Justin Jefferson's shoulders, which he's a superstar, so he can handle it. But I would like for the Vikings to still keep a solid receiving core around Justin Jefferson. So yeah, maybe they go draft a guy now to play receiver because that has to be the move. You have to go draft a receiver now. But I just don't get this move only saving $6 million, which is solid, but for cutting a player of Adam Thielen's caliber, I think that wasn't a great move to only save $6 million. Potential landing spots for Adam Thielen, just any team, contending team is what I heard. He wants to go to a contending team who needs a slot receiver. The Bears are not a contending team right now, but I like the direction they're headed, and if they could go get Adam Thielen, that would be a big move to add to this receiving core and get us a pretty good slot receiver. But yeah, so it would be interesting to see what Adam Thielen goes to play for next year. But moving on, Devin McCourty retired, the Patriots safety. He won 3 Super Bowls, made All-Pro 3 times. Devin McCourty had a fantastic career, very good free safety, very good leader for that Patriots team for the last decade plus. Patriots have a lot of other players at free safety. They do have a couple, they do have some free agents. I know Jabril Peppers is a free agent, but you have Kyle Duggar, Adrian Phillips, who might be a free agent. Is Adrian Phillips a free agent? I'm going to check real quick. Because if Adrian Phillips is a free agent, then he's kind of a guy you really want to bring back. Or you could go after a guy like Jesse Bates, who's a free agent at free safety, and that would be a big-time move for the Patriots, and they do have some cap space. It looks like Adrian Phillips is under contract. So you have Adrian Phillips, Kyle Duggar. You can always re-sign Jabril Peppers. They'll be fine, but this is a this is a good player that they're losing and a key veteran leader for the team. But congrats on a great career to Devin McCourty. But we can move on to another move. Leonard Floyd is going to be released by the Rams, is what's the report by Adam Schefter. This saves them $15.5 million in cash. If it's a post-June 1st cut, which it'll likely be to save that big amount of money. I can understand this move, saving $15.5 million. The Rams seem to kind of be in, I don't want to say rebuild, but a retool with them getting rid of some players like Bobby Wagner and Leonard Floyd. If they trade Matthew Stafford, then that shows they're going full-on rebuild. But with Matthew Stafford still there, I think they're kind of just retooling and trying to make some moves. They did this a few off seasons ago when they got rid of Todd Gurley, Clay Matthews, and they ended up being fine, making the playoffs the next year, winning a playoff game actually versus, I believe, the Seahawks. So yeah, they're just retooling some things, saving money, but now they need to go get an edge rusher because Leonard Floyd was the main edge rusher this past year and really the last few years. Of course, they have Aaron Donald in the interior, but you need to go get some edge help now. So it'll be interesting to see what they do. On to another move. The Titans released Ben Jones. He's been the starting center for years. He's a top 10 center in football. At times, he's played like a top 5 center. So a little surprising because it clears $3.7 million only, but he is getting up there in age. Ben Jones right now, let's see how old he is. I'm trying to find out Ben Jones' age. Ben Jones is 33, and he's going to be 34 next year. So he's getting up there in age, so I can understand releasing him, but Titans are releasing a lot of players. Seems like they're kind of in a rebuilding situation a little bit more than the Rams are. So save $3.7 million, not the most, but you do release your best offensive lineman. So interesting move for the Titans. They have to really go address this offensive line now in the draft. But we can move on to the Broncos release Ronald Darby. He's a good corner. He only played 5 games for them last year. But this move does clear $10 million, so they clear up a lot of cap. Of course, you have your stud number 1 corner in Patrick Surtain. You need to get some help, though, outside of that now, releasing Ronald Darby. But you want to save $10 million. I understand this move. On to the last move I'm going to talk about. Today, the Cardinals released Marcus Golden, edge rusher. This only clears $3 million, so doesn't clear the most money. And he is kind of getting up there in age, too. I'm going to check his age. Marcus Golden is 31 years old, and he's about to turn 32 in a few days. So he was the edge rushing talent from this past year. Obviously, you had J.J. Watt in the interior, but J.J. Watt's retired now. A.J. Green retired on offense. Now you lose Marcus Golden or you release him. But looking at the pass rush, they have 2 young guys that they really need to get some good play out of now. Those guys are Najee Sanders and Cameron Thomas. Those are the main 2 edge rushers as of right now. Both, I believe, were rookies last year. I'm going to check that real quick. They were both rookies last year, so that's not the best depth chart to have right now at edge rusher. So they definitely need to go make some They need to go make some moves at edge rusher. This team is definitely rebuilding, but they do have the quarterback, hopefully, in Kyler Murray, as long as he comes back from injury okay. But yeah, the Cards are rebuilding, release a veteran player, save a little bit of money. Understandable, but they definitely need to go get some help at edge rusher now. So that is what I'm going to talk about in this video. The trade, big draft shakeup trade, and the other little moves that happened today, players that were released. So thank you guys for watching. Let me know in the comments what you think of this blockbuster trade. As a Bears fan, I am so excited for the Bears' future now that you get your star receiver, build around Fields, have so much cap space, draft capital. I am so excited to see what they do this week in free agency, along with what the other teams do. I will have my NFC free agent, kind of free agent preview video coming out for the NFC teams, hopefully, before the free agency all happens next week. I did the AFC teams. Basically, I'm just going over the NFC team needs, top 3 needs for each team, and the key free agents that they may want to bring back or let go. Also, kind of talk about free agents that they could sign if that comes up. So, anyway, thank you guys for watching. Until next